Here's a question. Do you want to know how I got $3,000 worth of bases for $600? Well, if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll tell you how I did it, as well as give you some tips and tricks if you want to hunt for used gear. So what we have here is the Schecter Charles Berthoud CB4. It retails for $1,500 brand new, but I saw it on Facebook Marketplace for $500. It has a neck-through design, as well as EMG pickups. So I thought, let me send an offer in. I offered $300, and to my surprise, they accepted. But when I showed up to get the base, something interesting happened. They came out with a second base and asked me which one I was here to pick up. To my surprise, it was the Schecter Evil Twin with Fishman Fluence pickups. When I asked how much the second base was, they told me it was the same price. Clearly, that was too good of a deal for me to pass up, so for you non-mathematicians out there, that's $3,000 worth of bases for only $600. There's certainly an art form to buying and negotiating prices for used gear. So here are some tips and tricks to help you score that awesome deal. If you're a fan of my content, you know what a big advocate I am for buying used gear. It's hands down the best way to get the most bang for your buck and come out with an awesome instrument. I've purchased used gear from places like eBay and Reverb, but absolutely nothing compares to the gems I've found on Facebook Marketplace. So here's 6 tips to keep you safe and help you score that awesome deal. Tip number 1, cash only. No debit cards, no credit cards, no cash apps. Cash-only transactions help to eliminate about 75% of scammers. The second tip is be wary of deals that seem too good to be true. Now that statement might seem kind of wild, especially considering the deal I got on those Schecter bases, so let me explain. On Facebook Marketplace, it's common to see a guitar that would normally retail for $400, $500 brand new sell for about $100 or $150. I'll be the first one to tell you, the deal I got on those Schecter bases is not common. But if you check Facebook Marketplace daily, there's definitely a chance to score a gem. What I'm talking about is something like a 1972 Gibson Les Paul for $50. A deal like that is definitely a red flag. In my opinion, I would just move on. That being said, I think that's the perfect segue into tip number 3. Don't be afraid to negotiate. Here's where things can get a little dicey. Some people don't mind negotiating, and in my personal experience, I've never paid the listed price. But here's the thing. Some people don't like to negotiate, and about half of those people that don't like to negotiate will get offended that you offered something lower. It's important to be respectful and don't let your emotions get the best of you, even if they get mad enough to start talking shit. Just say thank you and move on. Now, when you're negotiating for a lower price, there's definitely some strategy. The first is knowing what this piece of gear you're looking at sells for on Reverb. Seeing what other people have it listed for in the same condition will help give you a ballpark on what the price range is. So let's do some math with a piece of gear that I'm actually on the current lookout for. I'm currently looking for a used oversized Mesa Boogie 4x12. Brand new, they retail for about $1,500. Because they're highly sought after, they hold their value relatively well. A clean Mesa Boogie 4x12 sits nicely in the range between $800 and $1,000. So if I see one on the used market for $900, I know that I could offer about $800 or maybe even $750 at the low end. If the seller's in a good mood, there's even a chance for $700. Anything below that is generally unrealistic. However, if the seller has a mint 4x12 for $800, you'll know you don't have much wiggle room to negotiate. You could offer the seller $700 or $750, and there's a chance he'll accept it. However, if you offer something like $650 with your max at $7, there's a good chance another buyer will come in and steal that piece of gear. The reason being, the seller priced this piece of gear towards the low end, or as they say, price to sell, meaning they want to sell it quickly. So definitely check listings before you make your offer, that way you know where you stand. And that takes me to tip number 4. When you meet up during daylight hours, preferably in a public place. Grocery stores, Walmart, Target, places like that. Most of those places have security cameras outside, and that just adds to your safety. Tip number 5 goes hand in hand with 4. Know the neighborhood. If it's a crime-filled neighborhood where everybody locks their doors and it's not safe to walk around at night, I'd be extra cautious. And last but not least, tip number 6. If you do have to meet at a seller's home, stay outside. If a seller says, yeah, why don't you come inside? I got all my gear in the basement. Don't do it. You don't know what's in that basement, so it's best to just play it safe. So those are my tips on how to score some great used gear. So stay safe, stay smart, and happy hunting. See you in the next one.